Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I'm doing week 45 of my 2020 reads. This week was definitely a stressful week, but I read some really comforting reads that were just so good, so it ended up being a very good reading week for me. First, I finished volumes 6 and 7 of The Girl from the Other Side by Nagabe, translated by Adrienne Beck, lettered by Blakeslee. This is a dark fantasy manga that is really interesting in the way that the world building in the story is unfolding. I really liked volumes 6 and particularly 7. In this story, we follow a girl, Shiva, who is human, but kind of in a strange way. This is a world where anybody who is left outside of the walls of the city gets infected by this curse and turns into an outsider, some sort of monster. But even though she's on the outside, she's still a little girl, and it's very confusing, and a lot of people are after her. And she is taken care of by a teacher who is an outsider himself, but he's also very unique. So as we get further into the series, there's a lot of unfolding of backstory and further world building that I'm really liking. Especially in volume 7, there's a lot of really interesting things that are happening and just very moving scenes, and I actually have really enjoyed it. Even though the beginning of this series was a little bit slower for me, I'm quite liking where we are right now. So volume 6 I gave 4 stars, and volume 7 I actually gave 5 stars because I was thoroughly engaged the entire way, and I'm very curious what's going to happen next, although I don't know if any further volumes are translated just yet. Next, I finished a children's picture book, We Are Water Protectors by Carole Lindstrom, illustrated by Michaela Goade. I don't know how I heard about this, but I am so glad that I borrowed it from my library. It was fantastic. This is written by an Indigenous author, and it is about the connection that a lot of tribes in the US have to water, the importance of water, the way that it is integrated with culture and heritage, and also the problems that are posed when things like pipelines are built through native land and pollute the water. So this is really connected to a lot of the protests against things like pipelines being built through Dakotas. So this story was beautiful. I loved the way that it really explained the importance of water, as well as the importance of kind of coming together and standing against these sorts of environmental issues. The artwork in this was absolutely stunning. I mean, it was just so gorgeous. I have to get myself a copy of this to own because I absolutely loved it. And I really enjoy nonfiction children's picture books that break down very complex issues in a way that like a preschool audience could understand. I think that these are such a joy to read, and I just really highly recommend this book. It is gorgeous, truly beautiful. So I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Please pick it up if you get the chance. Next, I finished Anxious People by Fredrik Backman, translated by Neil Smith. This is Fredrik Backman's newest release. He's very famous for works like A Man Called Ove, and I really love his works. They are just so beautiful. They're contemporary, heartwarming, funny stories. And this one, Sush, my husband, read out loud to me, which made me so happy. We have read to each other some of the previous works by Backman and just really enjoyed the experience. And this week it was so great to have such a heartwarming story that we were reading out loud to each other just to kind of unwind from some of the stress. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. The premise of the story is that there is a bank robber who ends up having to escape from the bank robbery and goes to an empty apartment, except it's not empty, it's filled with a bunch of people who are viewing the apartment, which is for sale, and takes them all hostage. So this is told in kind of a series of interviews and also kind of flashbacks to that point when they were all hostages. It is so good. Fredrik Backman does such a great job of having a funny story. I mean, there's so much humor in this that is also incredibly sweet and heartwarming, and also sort of heartbreaking because it tackles some issues, especially relationship and mental health issues. This is just really beautiful. I do want to warn though that there's quite a bit of talk about suicide. There's a suicide that happens years before this that is very much impacting the story. So, you know, warning for that, but it is lovely. It is so good. We were laughing, we were crying, just such a great heartwarming read. So if you need something as well to kind of get you through a little bit of stress, I think this is a good one. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars and I'd highly recommend it. And lastly, I read another comfort read, which was actually a reread that Sosh and I listened to on audio, which is Text from Jane Eyre by Daniel M. Lavery, who also publishes under the name Daniel Mallory Ortberg and previously published under the name Mallory Ortberg. This is such a great book. I really, really love it. Basically, this is a book that Sosh and I have now listened to 3 times, and that's saying something given that I don't generally like audiobooks, but I love this one. We've listened to it actually each kind of October, November for the past 3 years because stressful things have been going on, and it's kind of helped us get through that stress because it is so funny. It is just a series of little text interactions between literary characters or authors, and it is just such funny satire. I think that the humor is something that'll either work for you or not work for you, but it really, really, really works for me. And given that I just don't generally like audiobooks, the fact that I love the audiobook for this is, it just works so well for me. I especially love how, as the years have passed and we have re-listened to this, sometimes we have read some of the books that are talked about in these little vignettes in between listens, and we understand the degree to which a lot of what happens in these satires is actually based on real things that happen in the book or in the author's lives, and it's so ridiculous to begin with, and it's really brought out in the satire in these books. So it's really funny. I think that you can enjoy a lot of this even if you don't know the works that it's based on, but it's even funnier if you do. And again, it's really based on your humor style if you'll find this funny or not, but I really do. So I gave this actually 4.5 out of 5 stars. Previously I've given it 4, but I love it even more upon re-listen, so I had to bump it up a little bit. Also, Daniel M. Lavery is somebody who transitioned since he wrote this book, and if anybody knows the etiquette of talking about an author's work using a name that was pre-transition, let me know down below. I wasn't really sure if it's okay to mention that name or not. I think in general I might avoid it, but because his new work published in 2020 is under the name Daniel Mallory Ortberg, I wasn't sure if maybe he was okay with that name still being used. In any case, if anybody knows the etiquette, let me know down below. I really like this author and I want to read other works by him, so it would be helpful to know what kind of the conventions are. Okay, so that wraps up my reading week. If you guys have read any of these books, if you have any thoughts, any comments, anything like that, just leave me a comment down below. I hope that you got through the stressful week as well. It was definitely hard to concentrate, so I was glad to have some of these comfort reads.